Tottenham's first pre-season friendly will be against Reading, and it is now less than 3 weeks away. Reports are stating that Tottenham deny making any offer for Brentford star Bryan Mbeumo. Other reports are stating that Spurs have now backed off after genuine interest in Crystal Palace and England star Eze. Premier League clubs have voted that players will be interviewed shortly after being subbed from next season. Football.London have stated it is expected that Spurs will sign 2 or 3 players before pre-season starts, and Thomas Frank has been given a big budget to sign new players. 48 days' time, Spurs will face Burnley in the Premier League for the start of the new campaign, and there is now 64 days left of the transfer window. Hi everyone, hope you're well. My name is Chris Cowlin, and this is another episode of Tottenham News, where I'll be going through all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit the follow button and leave a review if you can. And before I get into it, if you can, please do nominate us for the 2025 Football Content Awards. All of the details are below, and your support is always really, really appreciated. Thank you in advance. Now, let's start by talking about pre-season, because in less than 3 weeks' time now, Thomas Frank will take charge of Tottenham for the first time, and we'll be facing Reading away in a pre-season friendly at the Select Car Leasing Stadium on Saturday, the 19th of July. Kick-off against the League One side will be 3 p.m. Our last trip to Reading came back in September 2012 when we secured a 3-1 win in the Premier League. This represents the first of 2 pre-season friendlies away to EFL sides in July, with a trip to Luton already confirmed for Saturday, the 26th of July. That one is also 3 p.m. kickoff. Now, some more official news released by the club. Oliver Irow has signed a new contract with the club that will run until 2028. The 19-year-old forward was our top goal scorer for our under-21s during the 2024-2025 campaign. His first full season at that level, he netted 10 goals in all competitions, including an impressive stint of 6 goals in 7 games around the turn of the year. He turned professional in July 2023 and has represented England at under-16 and at under-17 levels to date. Some more official news, this time from the Spurs women. Tottenham Hotspur Football Club have confirmed the departure of Rosella Ayane following the conclusion of her contract with the club. Signed from Bristol City in July 2019, Rosella Ayane was part of our squad to compete in the Barclays Women's Super League for the first time in our history in the 2019-2020 season. During her time in Lily White, she completed 109 games, scoring 12 goals in total across all competitions. The Athletic have reported about Tottenham Hotspur target Bryan Mbeumo. They have stated that Bryan Mbeumo has told Brentford and Tottenham that if he leaves Brentford this summer, he only wants to join Manchester United. Manchester United's proposal so far, £45 million plus £10 million in add-ons and £55 million plus £7.5 million in add-ons. But it is still short of Brentford's valuation. Talks are ongoing. Tottenham Hotspur Football Club have now denied making any offer for the Brentford star. Following 2 loan spells at the club under Ange Postecoglou, Timo Werner has now returned to German club RB Leipzig. Now, Fabrizio Romano has just stated that Timo Werner has opened doors to New York Red Bulls as his next club. Initial green light to the move. Talks are now ongoing about conditions of the deal, salary and more. MLS can be one of the options for Timo Werner's future. Timo Werner will not stay at RB Leipzig after returning from Tottenham. Now, TalkSport have just stated that Spurs have now backed off after genuine interest in Crystal Palace and England star Eze. Birmingham World have just stated that West Bromwich Albion have expressed a strong interest in re-signing Tottenham Hotspur striker Will Lankshear despite his underwhelming loan spell at the end of last season. Now, many congratulations to Tottenham Hotspur star Archie Gray, a part of the England U21 squad that have just won the UEFA U21 Championship Final 2025, beating Germany 3-2. Archie Gray was an unused sub on Saturday evening. Reports in Spain are stating that Sevilla want to sign Bryan Gil on a permanent transfer, but they only want to pay half of what Tottenham are demanding. They have an option to buy Bryan Gil for £12.5 million. They only want to pay around £6 million. Villarreal are also interested in the player, but they also only want to pay around £6 million. Now, the Sun newspaper have just reported that Premier League stars face being interviewed soon after they are subbed next season. Dressing room cameras will also be allowed, but not during team talks. A number of broadcasting changes were agreed by the clubs at the Premier League's June annual meeting, but extra access will only be in place for 2 home games per club. Sky Sports will now show 215 Premier League games, part of a new 4-year contract worth £6.7 billion. There will be dressing room access, a half-time player interview or a chat with a sub-player from next season, but it is expected there will be dressing room access and player interviews at 2 home games for all 20 Premier League clubs. Another change sees cameramen will be allowed to enter the field of play to capture player celebrations. AS in Spain are stating that Cristian Romero is still a prime target for Atlético Madrid. Spurs want €70 million for the Argentina centre-back. Atlético Madrid are only willing to pay €60 million. Football.London have reported that it is expected that Tottenham will sign 2 or 3 players before the start of pre-season starts in under 3 weeks' time. Football.London have also stated that Thomas Frank will be given a big budget this summer. Flashscore have reported that they have spoken to sources close to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and they have stated that the club will do some serious business in this transfer window, despite the club missing out on key targets. Norgard, it looks like he's going to Arsenal. They have just dropped interest in Eze. Branthwaite is staying at Everton and signing a new contract, and Mbeumo is going to Manchester United. Reports in Italy are stating that Tottenham Hotspur have now moved to the front of the queue to sign 24-year-old Belgium centre-back Koni de Winter. Genoa want around €30 million for the centre-back, the equivalent of £25.6 million. TalkSport have just stated that Tottenham Hotspur are still very much interested in 22-year-old Dutch star Xavi Simons, but there is a lot of interest from Premier League clubs, including Chelsea, Arsenal and Liverpool. And the Daily Telegraph on this story, they are stating this will not be an easy deal to do for Tottenham. Football.London have just reported that it is expected that George Abbott will be loaned out again for the 2025-2026 campaign following a very successful loan spell at Notts County last season. Now, my thoughts on everything in this episode. Let's start by talking about the transfer window in general. There is 64 days left now of the transfer window. 48 days we play our first Premier League game against Burnley. And in less than 3 weeks' time now, in 20 days, Thomas Frank will take charge of Spurs for the first time, and that will be Reading away in our first pre-season friendly. Reading, then Luton, and then, of course, we've got games in Hong Kong and South Korea, plus in Munich, and then, of course, we've got that Super Cup final as well against PSG. There are some very difficult games there, and, of course, everyone is asking that same question at the moment. Where are the signings, particularly that all of our Premier League rivals, and I say all of that, our Premier League rivals are doing some really, really decent business. And at the moment, every single report that we are reading, we're interested in a player, then we're backing out from the player. Spurs have actually now denied making any offer for Bryan Mbeumo. Spurs have now backed off after genuine interest in Eze. Now, Spurs have been interested in Eze since 2019, and we have been on this channel, we've been covering these stories for years that Spurs are interested in Eze. Spurs are very clearly interested in Eze. We know what it's going to take to get this deal done. It's just now, will Spurs get it done? Will another club nip in? Arsenal are interested. Manchester City are interested. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if there are other clubs interested as well, not just in the Premier League, but around Europe, because he is a top player. And these are exactly the types of players that we should be bringing in, on a yearly basis, especially in the summer windows, because the summer windows are so important for the start of your season and throughout the season. Spurs should be aiming big. I've just seen a report actually as well that our wage bill is actually less now in 2025 than it was in 2021. And I feel like that is a big issue at the moment of Spurs just have not changed their stance on paying players, bigger wages. It's meant to be a real pull that Spurs are in the Champions League. I'm not going to sit here and get carried away and be really negative about the transfer window because, like I said in the intro, there are 64 days left of the transfer window. Yes, in an ideal world, all of our signings would have been done, in the first couple of weeks of the window, and we're all sitting here very happy and feeling very confident about the window. Spurs just cannot let themselves and the fans, the club down, and not prepare properly for Champions League football and Premier League football. And, they've come out and said on a number of occasions now, we want to be fighting on all fronts. We want to win the Premier League. We want to win the Champions League. Well, you need to go out there now and identify top targets and go and, spend money and, give Thomas Frank all of the tools that he needs in order to take this club forward and finish higher than 17th in the Premier League table, compete for honours again, perhaps lift us another trophy. There's a lot to do. There is a lot to do at the football club. And, in an ideal world for a manager, especially when they've just come in, in less than 3 weeks' time now, we are playing our first pre-season friendly. It would be nice for a manager to have those new players in for these games, particularly before Thomas Frank and co, fly to Hong Kong and South Korea. Very, very important for managers to have all of their squad before and during pre-season, and of course before the Premier League starts. 48 days time, we play our first Premier League game against Burnley. This time will go very, very quick. But Football.London seem very confident about Spurs will bring in 2 or 3 players before pre-season starts. And they've also stated that we have a big budget. I've also seen lots of reports, including from the Daily Telegraph, that there isn't a budget at all. And, so I don't really feel like any one outlet at the moment actually knows deep down what is going on. I feel like there is a lot of guesswork in the media right now. Johan Langer is keeping things very, very quiet. It was very different when Fabio Paratici was running things on the transfer market. You'd always hear about Spurs were interested in this player, this player, this player. And a lot of people, when I'm reporting it on this channel and, doing the 60 seconds, etc., a lot of people are getting quite annoyed. But like I've said before, if you don't like all of the speculation about the transfer window, perhaps come back in 64 days' time when it's all over, because I know it can be very annoying. It can be very frustrating that Spurs are interested in a player and then it doesn't happen, doesn't materialise, etc. But it was very public under Fabio Paratici, and it's very, very quiet under Johan Lange. He does everything completely different to how Fabio Paratici did. Just look at the signing of the Japan international centre-back the other day. That just come out of nowhere. No journalist in the UK knew anything about that. It came out in Japan and that was it. It was a very, very quiet deal. So I feel like there's a lot of guesswork going on at the moment. And as you all know, if you watch and listen to this on a regular basis, this channel, I normally have a lot of journalists on. I haven't had, we've had 1 or 2 on, so far in this transfer window. I'm not going to have them on at the moment because there isn't really a lot to talk about, and not a lot of people actually know what's going on at the moment. So that they would be, I'd be wasting their time, and we would just be speculating about a load of things. Now, Eze, I just believe that Spurs need to get everything done to get this Eze deal done. we need players like this. We need players like this to improve our squad for the Premier League and for the Champions League and to be fighting on all fronts. The Bryan Mbeumo deal, that now looks like he is going to be signing for Manchester United. And lastly, what I've got to talk about is the Premier League teams have now voted that the players will be interviewed shortly after being subbed. I tell you what, I don't know how that is going to go down. For money, great for every single Premier League team. For the players, they are going to absolutely hate it. And I feel like the clubs in the long term, they're going to hate it as well, because when some of these subs come off and they're annoyed about being subbed off, they ain't going to hold back. And, they're perhaps going to say things that they will probably regret and the club won't like, etc., etc. I think it's going to be very, very entertaining for a lot of fans around the world and a lot of fans in England. But overall, this could be a bad decision. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how that all works. But of course, money talks in the Premier League. The more money that clubs are given, the more that they want from players, managers, access, etc. The access into dressing rooms, etc. So they're going to see a lot of the rucks, a lot of the arguments, a lot of people being happy, people not being so happy. So it's going to be very, very entertaining for the viewer. But overall, I think that in the long run, I don't think the clubs are going to like it. They might like it now when the money's coming in, but when there could be incidents that are shown on TV that perhaps players won't like, the clubs won't like, it'll be very, very interesting. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit the follow button and leave a review if you can. And please do nominate us for the 2025 Football Content Awards if you can. All of the details are below. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.